Always a pleasure to be joined by our pal Jeff Paterson from Rinkwide Vancouver and Canucks Army. Big news yesterday in Vancouver's Filip Hronek inks the long-term extension with the Vancouver Canucks. And what did you make of the number? I think some people thought maybe it came in a little bit lower than expected, but $7.25 million. Is that fair value, or did either side get a win here?
Well, it's funny. I mean, timing's everything in life. And for Filip Hronek, the timing was perfect. This is a 26-year-old right shot defenseman coming off a career year. He's got arbitration rights, and the way the system works, he knew that he was going to get himself a massive raise. It was just a question of, did he want to go the arbitration route, or were the two sides able to be adult about this? And ultimately they were. They got together and they got a deal done. So, this guy played a ton. He was second on the Canucks in ice time, third in shorthanded ice time, 48 points. The issue with Filip Hronek was he had 29 points in 35 games at Christmas. Like, he exploded out of the gate. The Canucks as a team exploded out of the gates. He had 19 points over the second half of the season. And then in the playoffs, next to nothing in the way of production from him. Now, in his defense, he was playing through an arm injury that he didn't want to talk about. But anybody that was in the locker room, we saw practice days and games, his arm heavily taped. And I do think it limited him. He only had 13 shots in 13 playoff games. But there were a couple of things here. 26 years of age, they've locked him up, but he's really just entering the prime of his career. I think that if he's healthy, there's room for him to grow and develop. And look, he keeps the captain happy, right? Like, he was the perfect partner for Quinn Hughes. And don't underestimate the importance of, like, Quinn Hughes on his own is a terrific player, but with Hronek, Hughes made Hronek better, but Hronek helped Quinn sort of turbo boost to 92 points and a presumptive Norris Trophy win next week. So, for all the talk and the noise out here in the market about $8 million, I don't think that he was ever going to get anywhere close to $8 million. With Quinn at 7.85, there was an internal salary cap already in place there, and Filip Hronek gets a nice raise and a nice bump, but ultimately, this is a player that the Canucks paid a lot to get. They didn't want to lose him and chase a replacement for Filip Hronek. So I think overall, a pretty good deal in a world where the salary cap looks like it's going to move forward here for the next couple of years.
Yeah, Jeff, I completely agree. And I think when we're looking at this deal in 3 years, I think it could look really team friendly, because you look at the fact that, yeah, he had a career year with 48 points, but, he did have 38 points the two previous seasons. Right. So you're basically buying a right shot defenseman who's got one of the hardest shots in the league, who is a 40-point scorer. Okay, he's proven that he's going to get you at least 40 points. So I really like the deal for both sides. I think Vancouver ends up taking a huge win on this a little bit down the road. But sticking on that back end, what does this deal mean with Nikita Zadorov? Because, we've seen him posting on social media, his girlfriend, last days here, he wants to be here. He's willing to take a pay cut. There's been a lot of information and, I don't want to call it drama, but let's call it theatrics about Zadorov. Okay. What do you think this deal does for the potential of keeping him, or did this shut the door on him being a Canuck?
Well, I've joked here in our market that this has kind of been the longest breakup in history, that it's like Nikita's backing out the door saying, goodbye, see ya, I'm leaving, watch me go, all the while basically pleading to the Canucks, keep me. And look, I've got experience from bad breakups, but we don't need to get into that. Whatever the case is, I do think that there's still time here before he hits the open market. It sounds like, his agent's Dan Milstein, it sounds like they've given the Canucks a number, and it's just a question of whether the Canucks are willing to bump from their position and, jump and meet the demands of the player. He knows that he's going to get something close to what he's looking for on the open market. He was spectacular in the playoffs. Beyond the points, he just brings swagger, brings a physical presence. He played a lot, and he played in all situations. In fact, on the depth chart, you've got Quinn Hughes and Carson Soucy slotted ahead of him on the left side, but really by usage in the playoffs, he was playing more than Soucy. They used him as a net front presence at time with an extra attacker, just getting that big body out there. He fit in well. He loved the city. The fans absolutely adored this guy in the playoffs. So I don't think that this door is shut yet. Like, I do think now that they got the Hronek business done, they get cost certainty there. I think they recognize, and Patrick Allvin on his media availability yesterday admitted that they're not going to be able to keep all their unrestricted free agents. So I think we all think that Elias Lindholm's going to market. Dakota Joshua is probably going to test the market and get a raise somewhere else. But the Canucks do have money here. And so I think they've got enough money that they could take a big swing at Jake Guentzel, but also have enough money before July 1st to earmark for Nikita Zadorov. So I'm not convinced that that is a done deal. Rick Tocchet basically pleaded with management to go and find him these big defensemen, and they did that with Susie. They did that with Zadorov. They're likely to bring Tyler Myers back. In Rick Tocchet's system with his structure, that's what the Vancouver Canucks are all about. If they can get a healthy Thatcher Demko, they think they can defend their way to a lot of success, and they showed it for long stretches this past season. But ultimately in the playoffs, you do have to score a few goals, and that's where they ran into some trouble. So, we'll see and that's why I mentioned Guentzel. They need Elias Paterson to sort of redevote and figure out whatever it was that held him back down the stretch to come back and be the star that he's capable of. But yeah, as I see it here, I don't think that the door has been slammed shut on Nikita Zadorov returning to the Vancouver Canucks.
Hey, before we let you go, I'd love to get your thoughts a little bit more on that Guentzel rumor that Frank threw out yesterday, or the reporting, I should say, that Frank did, is going after another player who could carry an AAV of double digits, $10 million. Is that the right play here in Vancouver, or would they be better off maybe splitting up that money and trying to find some quality support pieces for guys like Miller and Paterson?
I think at the end, Tyler, you saw that they were trying to patchwork a top six that included Ilya Mikheyev, who had 1 goal in his final 61 games this season. He can't be anywhere close to the top 6 ever again for the Vancouver Canucks if they're true about building a championship contender. And even a guy like Pia Suter, who was a nice piece, and he was added on a value contract in free agency, but he was signed basically to be a 3rd or 4th center, and he ended up playing alongside JT Miller and Brock Besser in your top 6. So they need help in their top 6. Then, they saw firsthand when they went up against the Oilers and came up short at the end that they were lacking firepower. So, you look at the way that their roster is constructed right now. They've got Quinn Hughes at 7.85 for 3 more years, one of the great value contracts in the National Hockey League. Thatcher Demko, if healthy, 2 more years at $5 million per. Like, they think that, they got through 2 rounds. They took the Oilers to 7. They think that their window is in the here and now. And so I don't think that they're thinking too long-term. Jim Rutherford wants another Stanley Cup. He doesn't want to be patient. He's not a patient guy. We've seen that throughout his career. And they've got the connections from Pittsburgh with Guentzel. Jake Guentzel shares the same agent as Brock Besser. So if he needs intel on the organization, take that for what it means or what it's worth. But look, I don't think this was an accident that Frank reporting yesterday that they're ready to make this full court press. I think they want the hockey world to know that when the window opens on July 1st, they plan to step to the plate and take a massive swing.
Jay, Pat, always a pleasure having you on, man. Appreciate your time. Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, guys.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.